Okay, so time for a bit of babysitting, I guess. And but before we actually talk about that, we decided to take a bit of a break while recording all of these. And Patricia had told me that she'd never seen Mr. Incredible and Pals.
No, I have never seen it before.
Yeah, so for those of you who do not know, Mr. Incredible and Pals was actually a extra in the Incredibles DVD. So if you actually look at the extras disc and you also like through like all the character profiles and things like that, there actually was a secret episode of Mr. Incredible and Pals that was piled into the DVD. So the story goes is that Mr. Incredible and Frozone wanted to expand their fan bases, so they agreed to have their likenesses put towards a very crappy children's television show, which basically has human moving lips, which I think is actually I can't remember the name of the show that it was a part of, but it actually is. I'm telling you what, why are you looking up for that? Why look for this this other show? Patricia, just give us your initial thoughts on what you thought of this short.
Okay, so continuing with the plot. So basically, we have Mr. Incredible and Frozone who are trying to solve the case on who stole a bridge because it's causing a lot of traffic. And so then they start putting the pieces together when they found a radioactive bolt that belonged to the bridge. And they were saying, oh, I know who it belongs to. It belongs to the ladybug villain. And so they went over to an amusement park because apparently, dark wherever there's darkness, that's where the villains are. And so they find the bridge, they find the villain, and they fight against her. And so, the day is saved, and there's even like a little bunny that's included, named Mr. Skipperdoo, which it's obviously a parody of like including unnecessary characters for the kids so that they can be able to, find something that's cute and that it could be marketable for people to buy the toys. And so yeah, it is akin to like those really awful cartoons from the 50s and 60s that, was definitely limited budget, bad acting, almost no movement, and just dripped in Americana, saying like, "Oh, we're doing this for democracy," that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. And
yeah,
also, I've actually just found the name of the show that this mocks. It's called Clutch Cargo, and it was a 1959 show where they basically had no animation. Basically, they would just draw the characters and they would superimpose like people's like human lips onto the characters. It's so weird.
Yeah, yeah. It would be parodied in a lot of cartoons, like SpongeBob even did this a few times. So, yeah, I mean, it was essentially like if you were to take a Hanna-Barbera cartoon, but make it even less of a budget, or those old Marvel cartoons from like the 60s, like the Iron Man and the Captain Marvel and the Captain America cartoon, I meant to say, and just have limited budget with like almost no movement. And yeah, I mean, it was so funny. It was self-aware, and the commentary just made it even better. Like, we have Craig T. Nelson and Samuel L. Jackson portraying as their respected roles as Mr. Incredible and Frozone, and they do a great job ripping this a new one, talking about like how the Frozone looks tanned compared to what he would look originally, and the superimposed lips on the characters, and how they had to make up a villain because, the Ladybug character was never a villain in their lineup, and the Mr. Snickerdoodle was just an unnecessary character. Just everything about it was just so funny. I had a blast with it.
Yeah, I think any bad cartoon, I think, probably now has a term of reference now, probably Mr. Incredible and Pals at this point. And it was so hilarious when Samuel Jackson was basically just ranting and raving about saying like, I am now associated with this, and now being part of the commentary, that means I'm further associated with this, which is kind of the truth really when you think about bad media, because there's a lot of people who just don't want to be associated with their bad work, but eventually people are going to dig this up and they can't escape it no more. And
exactly. I mean, the same thing just happened a few days ago as of the recording of this podcast, in which that Star Wars Detours, which was this CG cartoon that was created around the late 2000s or early 2010s. This was before that Disney had purchased the rights to Star Wars, and they were going to do a cartoon that was supposed to be like a comedy, and it was done by Matthew Sendrick and Seth Green, the creators of Robot Chicken. They did like a few episodes, but it was never released. And then the first episode, at least a few minutes of the first episode, was leaked online not too long ago, and now people are just like looking at it, and they're like, confused and kind of intrigued with it because of its obscurity.
Yeah. So there's two versions of Mr. Incredibles and Pals. There's the version without the commentary, which obviously if you always want to enjoy it for basically what it is, and then there's the one with the commentary with Liam T. Nelson and Samuel L. Jackson, which if you want to see Samuel L. Jackson as Samuel L. Jackson is his most hilarity, I would suggest you check out the commentary. So it's
Absolutely.
yeah. Anyway, that was a small distraction from our actual topic, which is Jack Jack Attack, which is basically, so this short, I think, is the first short that we have where it kind of like just interfits itself into the movie of The Incredibles. So we'll set the scene. So Mrs. Incredible, Helen Parr is on a jet flying off towards the island to go save Mr. Incredible from obviously the clutches of Frozone. So Syndrome. Sorry, I mean, like, didn't mean to make that a thing. But so what happens is that you end up with the babysitter being there, who basically is the butt of the joke that she basically is the babysitter that they got, that Dash and Violet got. So basically, they can sneak on board the plane and go off to go see what's going on with their mom. So you end up with the babysitter. She it basically goes completely completely intertwines with the actual what's going on within the story in The Incredibles. Like, you see her making frantic phone calls to when Jack starts his powers start acting up, and she doesn't know what to do in that regard, and then you just get to see the end result of her just kind of like with a fire extinguisher trying to keep putting Jack out because he keeps setting himself on fire and stuff. So and then we end with a cameo of Syndrome coming in to basically making a joke about I was sitter, but I didn't. I was gonna put like babysitter on my front of my thing, but he said BS. How bad that is, which I think is probably the first adult joke I think we probably had in a Pixar show. Barring the uncensored version of Knick Knack.
Yeah, exactly. And it makes a lot of sense because, I mean, this is the same guy who would say, wait, you married Elastigirl and got busy.
Yes,
so it's not too surprising.
It's not too surprising in that regard, but and obviously then the babysitter gets a mind drained of all that whole horrible episode, and and so it's quite frankly, it's a really hilarious thing that just fits into the story as a side.
Yeah, it fits really well. I mean, if you would have included that short alongside with the movie, it would fit just fine.
Yeah. One thing I really liked about it was just the creativity they did with Jack. Like, he's not discovered what his power is yet, so he's he's full of wonder, and like he just does multiple other powers and stuff like that.
And they wouldn't fully go into that until Incredibles 2, which is about 14 years after this movie came out. And they would go more into him transporting into other worlds. By the way, there's actually a really interesting Pixar theory. I know that we've talked to death about Pixar theories in PixMix, but hear me out. Apparently, that in Monsters Inc., that scene in which when they're, the monsters are being interviewed about Boo, and then, the monsters are talking about a child came in and he blasted my car with his laser vision. And, I tried to, stop it, but it picked me up with its mind powers and shook me like a dog. A lot of people thought that the child was Jack, not Boo, that they were interacting with.
Mm-hmm. I mean, obviously it was, but then you see, that's a good question, actually. What if there was, somehow if Jack actually intersected himself into when all the craziness is going on at Harryhausen's in Monsters, Inc., and, that was basically what they were describing was Jack rather than Mary.
Exactly.
Yeah, wow, that blows my mind, actually.
Yeah, that is one of the very few Pixar theories that I can actually believe in. Not in this whole other stuff about the Pixar world that doesn't really make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should probably do an episode at some point where we kind of take a look at all the Pixar theories and just think which ones work and which ones don't.
Yeah, and I know that we're pretty much long overdue about the whole Pixar versus DreamWorks discussion, but we'll get there when we get there.
Yeah, but anyway, Mr. Incredible and Pals, Jack Attack, check them out. They are definitely, and so hey, now coming up after this, we're going to be focusing on a one-man band.
Yes, the one good thing that came out of Cars.